I'm Nick, and Cooler Master has another brand new frame case. This is the Cooler Master MasterFrame 360 Panorama. As you can tell by the name, this is one of their frame-based cases, and it's got a stage in the front. Let's see what the deal is with this case, but before we kind of get into it, I just want to let you know that we've reviewed the MasterFrame 600, and it is based on the same chassis and the same frame setup. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about or not talk about has already been covered in that video. And this is kind of like the MasterFrame 600, except less modular, if that makes sense. Let's dive in and take a bit of a look at this case, I suppose you could call it. It's an interesting one. Here it is, the Cooler Master MasterFrame 360 Panorama. It's a very interesting take on Cooler Master's frame series of cases. As for the dimensions, the case is 549 millimeters deep, 291 millimeters wide, and 581 millimeters tall, including those feet. To get inside, all the panels are magnetic. You want to pop off the top corner for the TG side panels. Both the front and rear panels have the exact same method for removal. As with any other TG case, you do need to be careful when removing these panels. However, on the MasterFrame cases, because the magnets are so strong, you need a bit more force, and it can be a bit scary. You might accidentally drop the panel, but yeah, just be careful. Removing the front panel can be a little bit tricky. You need to slide it all the way forward after removing both sides, and it's kind of on rails, and you slide that up and then away from the case. There are some cable management panels on the backside that need to be removed. The left-hand panel requires you removing 3 screws in total. It's very easy to pull that away. There's no magnets here. There's then 4 more screws to remove the cover for where the power supply and all the cabling is for the backside of your motherboard. Finally, the top panel is removable. The way I like to do this is just by putting your fingers underneath it and then lifting it away from the case. Again, the magnets here are very strong. As for the wiring in the case, there's a USB Type A cable, a USB Type C cable. There's 2 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB cables for the lighting at the front of the case, which I'll show you in a moment, a front panel audio cable, and the front panel block for the lights and the switches to turn on the system. This is the Panorama version of the case, so it has the stage, if you will, and it's got these little downlights or little spotlights. They're kind of on a ball joint, and the way you would adjust these is simply just by grabbing it, giving it a bit of a rub, moving it around, pointing it in the direction you want it, and Bob's your dad's brother. On this version of the case, there's also a mirror. You can see that I haven't taken the wrap off here because look at that. There's factory fingerprints. That's pretty normal with this kind of stuff. Basically, you just peel off the plastic and you're good to go. If you're looking at installing drives in the MasterFrame 360, you can do either 2 2.5-inch drives or a single 3.5-inch hard drive. As for motherboard support, this case does support ITX up to EATX motherboards, including back connect motherboards, but because I don't have a black or dark colored back connector motherboard, I'm using the same hardware that we've used for the last few reviews because it makes sense and it gives you a bit of a comparison point if you want to go back and watch those other videos. For fan and radiator support, this one's pretty interesting. It has a bunch of movable brackets, but the maximum configuration will allow you to install up to 6 120mm fans, 2 140mm fans, 2 180mm fans, or 2 200mm fans, or a 360mm radiator. And the configuration at the top of the case is identical to the configuration at the bottom of the case. Keep in mind, there is a maximum thickness for everything, which is 75mm. I don't think I put that down anywhere, but yeah, 75 mils is maximum radiator and fan thickness. I wanted to use this new Lian Li cooler because I wanted to see how the tube runs would be if they weren't in the default location. And as you can see here, there's no problems using this type of liquid cooler. Power supply support is fairly normal, 210 mils for maximum length here. The thing is with this type of power supply support, because it is a dual chamber case, you'll also notice that the power supply is behind the motherboard tray. It looks as though because there's a glass panel, there's not going to be good airflow, but there's plenty of room for air to come into your power supply. GPU support's an interesting one. There's an included PCIe Gen 5 riser cable. This cable is not optional. It is required for this case because if you look at the backside of the case, you can only do vertical GPU installations here. There is no other option, and I'll cover this a bit later. Because you can only do vertical GPUs in here, there is a GPU support bracket for vertical GPUs as well, and it has a bit of foam on it for additional padding and basically just to remove any vibration. You'll need to install the riser cable before doing anything. There's no bracket for the riser cable itself, it just plugs in to the bottom of your GPU. As for maximum GPU length support, you're looking at 430 millimeters, so more than enough space for most of the GPUs out there on the market, especially for this 5090, fits in here just right. At first, I thought cable management was going to be a bit of a nightmare, but I forgot that they had those included panels that will essentially cover up everything, so you don't need to worry about cable management in the MasterFrame 360 Panorama at all. Everything is covered. Even if you weren't good at cable management, it'd be just fine. All right, let's put all the panels back onto the case and take a little bit of a look at this when it's on, I suppose. Let's take a look at the thermals with the Cooler Master MasterFrame 360 Panorama. What you're seeing right here is the thermals aren't too bad at all. In fact, they're probably not as good as they could be, but that is down to a few reasons. The first reason is this case is really designed to be a showpiece. Sure, you could put 12 fans in there if you want, but a lot of fans doesn't always equal great thermals. As you can see in the build that we did here, I used 9 fans, 6 as intake, and 3 exhaust out the top. The thermals are fine, like whatever. This is insanely high-end hardware as well, so you get what you get and you don't get upset. It's a 9950X 3D and a 5090. So yeah, the thermals here are perfectly adequate. If you're using any less hardware, that meaning like any lower end CPU or any lower end GPU, you're going to be just fine. I'll put a PC part pick list down below and some Amazon links if you're interested in all the hardware, because if you do use those links down below, they help out the channel a whole lot. All right, let's talk about this new case from Cooler Master. Well, really it's not a new case because it is based on the MasterFrame 600, which I already mentioned at the start of the video. And I have some feedback for this case here. First of all, I don't know why this case exists. It's strange in the way that it's designed on the basis of the MasterFrame 600. It's less modular, which is also a good thing, because if you saw our review, I thought it was too complicated, but what they've done here is made it kind of this case where you just whack your stuff in and away you go, which is good in a way, but also takes away from the modularity of that frame system. That meaning, if you look at the back panel on the case in this clip, you can see that there's only one orientation for this case. If you wanted to install the GPU in a regular horizontal fashion, you can't. There's just no way to do it in this case whatsoever. You can't even reconfigure the back panel because it's only set up in one way, which takes away from the whole point of these modular frame cases. One other thing about this case is its fan support. This is where it gets a little bit strange for me personally. You can see in the build that I did, I put 6 fans in the bottom of the case as intake because it technically supports them, but to get those to fit is a whole nother thing. To be honest, to install the bottom fans is kind of silly. You have to remove a bottom panel with, like, I think it was 6 or 8 screws to remove the bottom panel. Then you need to install the fans on those brackets. If you're doing 6, you then need to remove the brackets to then install the fans and then put the brackets back in. But the problem is Not every 120mm fan is created equally. These Lian Li fans that I used, because I've got heaps of them, like reverse pitch ones, because they look cool. These kind of actually don't fit, so don't use these fans if you're wanting to build in this case, because the frames are a little bit wider than a typical 120mm fan. So getting these to work, I didn't use all of the screws. In fact, there's like maybe 3 screws holding each 360mm length down. Yeah, but it looks really freaking cool, but if you really care about all your fans being fastened, probably don't use this. They could have made it a little bit more forgiving if the pegs for the TG side panel were a little bit shorter. That's really what the limitation is here. The pegs that hold this part of the panel into the case. Other than that, yeah, the design is fine. I get it. Here's the bottom line with this case in particular. Well, all of these frame cases, all Cooler Master has to do now is produce the basis of like 1, 2, or 3 chassis, and they can make heaps of other cases out of them. This is not new for Cooler Master. They've been doing this for years. I just don't know why they kind of market this as a modular case, and it's not really. Like, I get the target audience. It's for people who want to whack stuff on that stage up the front and display stuff. As you can see here, I thought the most appropriate thing was mayonnaise, because I don't collect stuff like that, so I didn't have anything that could show the size. But yeah, if you're an Australian and you shop at Woolies, your Woolies mayonnaise will fit in there very, very easily. I don't know, I honestly had nothing else to put in the front. I'm so lame, sorry guys. But hey, you know, I'm confident enough with the thermal performance for it to not ruin this perfectly brand new bottle of mayonnaise. I mean, it's designed to be fine because it's sealed, because it's never been used, but you know, it is what it is. But mayonnaise in a computer, what do they think of next? Well, what do I think of next? It was my idea, actually. I went into the cupboard, I was like, mayonnaise. Claire had some other ideas, but we'll leave those in her nightstand. That's a joke, guys, relax. Anyway, I'm leaving that in, that was hilarious. In terms of pricing and availability, this is not the Panorama S, so it's not the whole system, which is like 4,000 zillion American US dollars. This is just the case, and this one will be going for $199 US. I'm not sure about availability or when you'll actually be able to buy this, if you do in fact want to buy this, but yeah, $199 US doesn't seem too bad. Let me explain. It doesn't include any fans, which is fine. When you're building in a case like this, you probably don't want to do that, so that's fine. It does come with a PCIe Gen 5 riser cable, which is a very nice addition, and for cases that typically allow for vertical GPU mounting, they won't come with a riser cable, so that's nice. And the materials and the finish and the quality of this case is one of the best that you'll find on the market. This is a proper premium tier case, and the price, I think, reflects that quite well. $199 US for the Cooler Master MasterFrame 360 Panorama. I'm not opposed to that price whatsoever. This case is fairly strange. I get who the target audience for this case is. I really do. I understand. It's really not for me, but I gotta say, this case actually looks kind of sick. Right? And that's the takeaway from it. I may hate on these fish tanks and these glass cases, but this one in particular, it looks crazy. In person, it just looks freaking insane. That stage with the mirror at the front actually looks pretty sick, with those little adjustable nipple lights, I suppose they're called. I don't know, they're downlight, let's call them spotlights. It looks really cool. The fact that they're also RGB is really cool. So I like the idea of this case, and I like that Cooler Master almost said, hey, the MasterFrame 600 is too modular, so let's make it an easy to build case, right? Because if you look at the cable management that I showed earlier, with those panels on, I forgot that I had to put those panels back on, mind you. So I was thinking to myself, oh, the cable management is going to be a nightmare, but once you put them on, you can't see anything. Imagine this with a back connector board as well. You wouldn't see any cables whatsoever. So I kind of like it. It looks really, really cool, but I would never use a case like this, ever. It's too big. It's too, what's the word? It's too in your face, but some people like that kind of thing. People who are into like figurines in the front of their computers, you quite literally have a whole stage. But me, all I could come up with was a bottle of